Bitcoin tends to follow that market a bit more. But generally, this pattern, what do you how do you interpret this? We've seen lower highs, lower lows ever since the beginning of the year.
Bitcoin Zella stands out with its simplicity and clarity. We've crafted an experience that anyone can dive into, whether you're a crypto expert or just a new to the crypto world. Now guess who keeps his eye on us? The author of best-selling book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And we want to take this opportunity and thank all the people who trusted us, and we read every comment. And the best part, it's free. Subscribing now means you will get all new information for free. Don't just follow the trends, stay ahead of them. Subscribe to Bitcoin Zella today and enjoy the new edge. Let's join Gareth in this video about Bitcoin and more.
One of the things I think is fascinating is that when we had that big dump on August 5th, which again was when the NASDAQ was down over 5% early in the day, we actually touched on Bitcoin, the spot ETF approval high before we had that 20% correction in Bitcoin, right? So we actually retested a technical support level. It was resistance. We broke out above it. We've now come back and retested it. In addition, you have this parallel channel, right? So this parallel channel, when you have a big move up like this is actually what we would refer to in technical analysis as bullish consolidation. Basically, price makes lower highs and lower lows, but it stays within the up move, which was from this low here all the way up to 74,000. And so actually, as long as you stay within this parallel channel on a closing basis, this is actually a bullish chart for Bitcoin. And it does make me wonder if the stock market starts getting weaker and investors start to say, hey, listen, maybe we don't want to be in the stock market quite as much. Does Bitcoin see money flow? Because as you mentioned, it has become uncorrelated. Maybe money was flowing out of crypto and Bitcoin into the stock market. Maybe it reverses a little bit. And so I would actually be, as long as this parallel channel holds, I would be bullish on Bitcoin here.
Really? Okay. What's the upside target you see for Bitcoin in the short term?
So you got to respect the channel. So 69,000 right up here. Again, what I do as a technician is I look at the history of it, and we can see every time it hits this line, it pulls back. So at least in the short term, if you hit 69, see if it pulls back. If it can break through that, 74,000 is a minor stopping point, which would be the all-time high. And I think you actually go quite a bit higher than that. I would even dare say that it wouldn't shock me in the next year or two. And I know Bitcoiners would love to hear sooner, but I do think 100,000 is definitely on the radar for this asset. I do think it slowly is becoming a risk asset here, essentially it's becoming a asset that is not as correlated to the stock market as more so gold. I would say more so gold. Investors have to be aware that there is downside risk here, right? So if the markets, and this is something we saw, so we look at this dump on Bitcoin that took us from 70,000 down to 49,000. First of all, that's a massive drop in basically 2 weeks. So investors have to understand that if you do break below and have a daily close below this level here, this parallel channel, it does open the door to seeing some major downside. And if we took out 49,000, I would start to say, okay, well, your next stop would be your 20% low correction from the spot ETF at 38,000, 39,000 area. So again, just understand that Bitcoin seems to have a little bit of this gold sense where it does better when the stock market struggles a little bit, but it also still can get panicked. Investors can get panicked and still dump it out when there's all-out panic, as we saw. And by the way, gold sold off that same day as well when we saw the stock market and Bitcoin collapsing. So when panic hits, all assets get sold. People ask questions later, they just dump it at that point. So I would be very aware of that. And again, this is where technicals come in, is that if you do see a break of this area, you just step aside, let the dust settle, and then reevaluate. You might be able to get it at a lot lower level.
Bitcoin's price action suggests a major breakout is imminent, with a potential surge to $260,000 by the end of 2024. A rare cup and handle pattern and a parabolic curve signal a steep ascent, despite short-term volatility. Bitcoin's price action has formed a parabolic curve, with the final base hinting at an impending breakout. The cup and handle pattern, formed in 2021, is nearing completion, with a 95% success rate for triggering upward moves. Over $7 billion in short positions could be liquidated if Bitcoin surpasses $70,500, fueling further price gains. Gert van Leegen and other analysts predict a steep rise, with potential gains of 312% by late 2024. As Bitcoin approaches key resistance levels, sentiment shifts bullish, setting the stage for a potential parabolic rise.
So in technical analysis, when you have a sharp up move like this on the chart, and then you kind of go into this period, what's happening is that it's had a big run. What happens is psychologically, some investors say, wow, it's gone up so much. I'm a little nervous about Bitcoin. Maybe I'm not a hodler out there. So you have some sellers that come in, right? But if it was only sellers, price would collapse back down. But even at the current level of between 50 and 70,000, we're seeing buyers coming out of the woodwork and meeting them here, right? So even though you had this huge run in Bitcoin up here, yeah, there's some sellers. There's sellers coming out, but there's also buyers stepping up. And that creates this kind of equilibrium of buyers and sellers, which again, after a bull run is really impressive because you're not getting just all sellers like, oh, let's just take the money and run. There's still buyers that are willing to step up. Now, eventually, as the buyers are willing to step up, eventually the sellers get exhausted of selling. There's all the people that want to sell, they sold, right? So what happens then is if buyers are still willing to step up and eventually the sellers that wanted to dump, what do we get? We get the breakout up to the upside. And that's where you get that next leg to the upside. So that is a bull. If you're a bull, that's what you're looking for on Bitcoin, is that those sellers finally say, okay, I've unloaded what I wanted to. There's no more sellers. And because the buyers have held price so close to the highs, it then gets its next bull run. And once it breaks the highs, all new buyers come in. They start chasing to the upside. So September happens to be a really poor month for the stock market, for Bitcoin, because it's generally been correlated with the stock market and risk assets. But again, the beauty of it is that just because something tends to be a bad month, it doesn't mean it is going to be a bad month. And I think the important thing for us as technicians is that who cares whether it's a bad month or a good month? Let's just let the chart tell us, right? So, if Bitcoin comes down here, it's still okay. If Bitcoin starts getting in this lower range and having closes below 53,000, then you have to step aside as an investor and say, okay, if it breaks down here, you're going to see a much bigger flush. But again, for me as a trader, I don't want to kind of say, oh, well, September's a really bad month, so I'm going to assume it's going to be a bad month. It's more like watch the levels. And if the level breaks, then yes, the technical support has broken and price can fall through. But until that happens, I have to go with what the chart is telling me. Funny thing, I've traded off charts a long time, but I trade off every once in a while, especially in my early years, I traded off emotion. And I kind of said, oh, well, September's a bad month, so let me go short. Almost every time I'm wrong. When I go with my gut or my brain or my heart, I'm wrong. When I focus on the charts, the probabilities are that I'll be right more often than not.
BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust, IBIT, recorded its largest daily net inflow in over a month, with $224.1 million invested on August 26. This influx occurred as Bitcoin's price dipped below $64,000 after a strong weekly rally. On August 26, BlackRock's IBIT recorded a $224.1 million net inflow, its most significant since July, as Bitcoin slipped below $64,000. Bitcoin fell from a weekly high of $64,475 to $63,031, prompting investors to capitalize on the dip through ETF investments. IBIT dominated the inflow landscape, with other Bitcoin ETFs seeing mixed results. Total daily inflows for U.S. spot Bitcoin ETF reached $202.6 million. Investor optimism is growing, spurred by speculation of the Federal Reserve's upcoming interest rate cuts, as explained by Jerome Powell. This strong interest in Bitcoin ETF reflects growing confidence in Bitcoin's resilience and potential for further gains. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has filed settled charges against Plutus Lending LLC, operating as Abra, for failing to register the offers and sales of its crypto asset lending product, Abra Earn. The SEC also accused Abra of operating as an unregistered investment company, further complicating the firm's regulatory standing. Sergei Stepashin, Russia's former prime minister, explained that it's premature to discuss a common priceless currency, emphasizing the importance of increasing payments in national currencies instead. He cited challenges in creating a common currency, particularly between large economies like India and China. While some BYCS members support a single currency, Stepashian advocates for enhancing financial cooperation using national currencies before considering such a move. If you've been with us so far, a big thank you. Don't forget to subscribe for free to Bitcoin Zella for your daily news. The link is waiting below. That's all for today's crypto news. Stick around for more updates, insights, and analysis on cryptocurrencies. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more exciting content.